So imagine if I were doing a product design. Okay. And I have to tell the design story. Okay. uh, would you think a similar concept works, or is there any other small tweaks that one need to do? Because in software it's largely code, it's largely tech. It's very very left brain thinking. So therefore, if I were to actually look at presenting a cloud architecture, okay, how do I tell a story there? Because you're really talking about concurrent users, you're talking about bits per second. So how do you tell a story there?
So everywhere, the principles apply everywhere, right? So 139 is like an empty vessel, so you can fit any type of story there. It could be anything.
Mm,
That's one advantage there. But sometimes people then get confused. So what do I put in the first bucket? What do I? Is there like a guideline for telling me that this is how you can? These are the an indicative set of questions that you can use to do that. And in situations like these, right? So there are broadly two. I mean, there are multiple types of presentations, but one way to divide them is the two types for me are um, one is like a review data review presentation, right, which
mm,
is okay, last quarter how much have we done, whether it is numbers, whether it is metrics, whether it is financials, etc., right? So that is one. The second is kind of the example that you're talking about, right, that I'm built something new, a new product, a new feature, etc., and I want to talk about it, right? It's not just about the numbers will be there within that, but it's not just about that. So or I want to pitch about my company, my team, my product. So in all of those, um the 139 is like an empty vessel, right? So what might be a good way to fill that vessel? So one framework, story framework that comes handy there is a very old one again called the hero's journey. This was came out with this guy called Joseph Campbell, right? And he was a literature prof in the US. He did a very interesting exercise where he studied mythologies of all cultures. So he
mm,
studied Hindu mythology, he studied Greek and Norse and all of those. And one fascinating finding that he came out with was that irrespective of these different mythologies across thousands of miles of spread out, the underlying story structure is the same across all of these. And he called that
mm,
story structure the hero's journey. And it's a very famous visual. If you search hero's journey, you'll immediately get it on online on Wikipedia and all. And it's very inspirational. Apparently, George Lucas, right? He was inspired by it, and he's used that for the Star Wars movies and many others, right? So it's great, but it's a little tricky from a business user's point of view, because it's a little esoteric in its language and stuff. So what I have done is to use that and make it into a simpler framework for business audiences, and it is useful in all these situations: product, cloud architecture, and all of that, which is very simply, I call it the 7 C's model, because there are 7 C's that come, the letter C. But very simply, the model is nothing, Swami, but saying ki there is a problem faced by a certain audience, and here is a solution for that problem.
mm,
It's a
mm,
problem solution framework, nothing else, right? And it
mm,
gets more complicated than that, but that's what every movie also does, right? What does every That's why the hero's journey works, because in every movie the hero is shown as facing a big problem. In Bahubali, the younger son has to revenge his father's death and become the king. In Dangal, that girl has to defeat the Australian opponent NDA. In Chak De India, the hockey team has to win. So every time the hero has been given a specific goal or a problem, and how they tackle all odds and win is the story of that movie, right? And so it coming back to this. So often, what mistake people do when they make these presentations about a product or a feature or a cloud architecture is they only talk about the solution. Hey, we did this, this has got this brilliant feature, and if you press this button, this happens. Why are we talking about this? Sorry, who is the audience? What was the problem that they were facing? How is this impacting them? So you have to step back and tell the story not from your product point of view. Sorry, you're not the hero. Your audience is the hero. You have to
mm,
change your mindset completely when you're telling that story. So you have to tell, for the cloud architecture, who is going to be using that architecture. Oh acha, these kind of companies or this kind of user, right? Tell the story from their point of view. How was their life before you even came out, before that product even came out? And so the first C in that 7 C's model is the context, right? What was their life's context? They were going about, they had, on-prem, all this, servers that were there, and things were going fine. And then the next is a change. There is some change or disruption that comes into their life. Now, change and disruption can be sudden, like demonetization, right? That was a sudden disruptive change. On one fell swoop, suddenly you couldn't use cash, and then that led to all this adoption of digital technology. Even in maybe in a software a server case, there could be a sudden thing that, one day servers crashed, right? And we were like, oh my god, we can never have this. We can't rely on our own servers. We have to have backup and all. That is one. Or it could be a trend, and most changes are like a gradual change and trend, right? 2005 6, who would think about cloud software, right? But
Mm.
over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, with so many things happening, it's becoming more robust, it is becoming cheaper, it is becoming more faster, anywhere access, all these trends are happening, right? And so eventually, again, I'm going back to the user of the cloud architecture, not the builder. My context was I was happy with on-prem, but then life is changing. Then it comes to this third C, which is a conflict, which is a key goal or a problem. My problem as a user is I want to continue to serve my software users with high reliability and all of that, with a low cost and fast and whatever, right? So how can I continue to do that whilst remaining on prem? Probably not. So which is where the conclusion, the next part comes in, the part A of the conclusion, that I need to think of a move to cloud. Or I need to make this, if I'm already on the cloud, I need to make this big change in my architecture to the cloud. um, or I need to start using this ERP software product, or whatever, right? Whichever is a big leap. So this part of the story, and in most of these movie stories, they will show the hero grappling with this question that, can I do this? Can I do this? This is with me. There is, in the hero journey, they call it as a threshold, that you almost always have like a guru or a guide who will, be like Yoda is a quintessential guide in Star Wars, who will, cajole, encourage, push the hero to do what should be the right thing. And so you're kind of almost acting like that for the audience, and then saying, hey, you must move to this. Once you do that, once you take the call that no, I must move to cloud, or I must take on this ERP software, the next two C's are the challenges and counters,
Mm.
which is I will have a lot of doubts. Hey, will it work? Hey, what about reliability? What if things go south? What if there is a ransomware attack or whatever, right? So you have to list down, by being empathetic again, what all are possible issues that my audience, again, that the hero will face in this journey of migration from on-prem to cloud. And I list down all the, there could be like, in theory, limitless objections, but prioritize and then say, okay, these are the top 5, top 7, top 10 objections. For each objection, for each challenge that they are throwing at you, you have to have a counter. Hey, you worry about ransomware? Don't worry. This is the way the systems have been built, that nothing will happen. You worry about reliability? You worry about cost? Don't worry, you can try it and whatever. Right? So for everything, you need to have like a counter, and hopefully your counters are strong enough and you're able to convince. And if you're able to convince, then the last two C's are, you give them a happy ending, happy conclusion, where you give them show them the benefit of the move, not just the features. And the final C in my model is a call to action, where you say, okay, guys, you should do it now, so that you don't miss out on this upgrade period, or whatever. So that's a 7 C's model, and again, happy to share that with you. And yeah,
Brilliant, Ravi.
that allows you to kind of put it in that 139 framework, right? So maybe in the first box, I will put the context and the change, and then I'll talk about the conflict, and then the challenges, counters, and the conclusion. So something like that. Yeah.